What's up there, my friends? I'm just going to ponder some thoughts. I was going to wait until I gathered what I wanted to say before I started the camera, but I thought that I would just kind of ease into it. Usually I like to vape before I make my videos so I don't look like an idiot vaping on video, but oh well. I'm an idiot. What can I say? I'm a human being, and it's funny because when I think about it, you know, when I first started making YouTube videos for the first 4 years or so, I was a smoker, and so once in a while I'll find one of my old videos and I'll be sitting out in front of the house smoking, and I think, oh my god, you know, what was I thinking? It's just so tacky. But I would get comments back then like, oh my god, you smoke? And I've had comments in the past, even one guy on a video I made about herbs, for example. And he said, oh, I'm not going to take advice from a guy who's drinking an energy drink, because I had a Rockstar. And it's like, look, you know, nobody's perfect. You know, I'm not a fucking vegan, okay? I eat the best I can, and yeah, I like caffeine, and sometimes I cheat and break rules, but I don't really have any rules. It reminds me of this Family Guy episode, this guy Craig, and he says, I don't follow anybody's rules, not even my own. This kind of stubborn nature of rebellion, which got us into smoking in the first place when we were young, which 25 years later made me vape in order to fulfill that kind of hand-to-mouth kind of, I call it the mechanical nipple, and I'm totally aware of that. The fact that vaping is more of a, and people don't want to look at things that primal. They think, oh, I just like vaping, it's cool, or whatever it might be. I just want to get my nicotine. But cigarettes, vapes, all these things, they're just synthetic versions of comfort, mama's tit. And that's, you know, when you get right down to it, the psychology of, I sucked my thumb when I was young for a long time. And, you know, it was my comfort. And so I figured maybe that's partially the reason why I moved into smoking cigarettes, but not just cigarettes, but cannabis and a variety of other things. But I don't have an eating disorder, so that's one interesting thing. I actually maybe just don't eat enough, but I've also been programmed by society to believe I need 3 meals a day and a certain amount of calories and all that, and it's all nonsense. Just like saying you need to drink 8 ounce glasses of water a day. No thanks. I'll drink water when I need water. I have this thing, this specialty thing in my body. It's called a brain and a stomach, which tells me when I'm hungry and when I'm thirsty. And so, you know, if I believed that by looking around and seeing how overweight so many people are, it's obvious that we're eating too much. But anyhow, that's a different story altogether. So I figured out I would start out with my faults and my follies to kind of go into the point I wanted to talk about. Which is judgment and the way people look at each other for what they do. I guess we were all that way at one time or another in our lives, especially when you're young. You tend to look at others, and perhaps you're not a judgmental in a bad way, but we all judge. I mean, when we go through school, you're judging every other group, social group. If you're one of the dorks, you're judging the jocks and the uppies, and if you're one of the uppies, you're judging the dorks and the skaters, and it's just the way life is. We humans tend to congregate in groups, and that's just how we function. In this crazy life, I mean, we interact with lots of different people and meet a lot of people, and generally people are pretty well behaved. But online, people can do whatever they want. And so judgment, it's more than just a thought you may have in your mind that you can overcome once you meet someone. You see a person online and you judge them and then continue that judgment. And there's things that YouTubers will notice that others may not notice as well. If you don't have, let's say, having a YouTube channel gives you a certain insight into behaviors that otherwise I wouldn't be aware of. And one of those is, the more views one of my videos gets, the more likely people are to make ad hominem attacks at me personally, calling me names or saying this guy who made the video, this guy. And it's funny because a smaller video, people would say you, aimed at the guy, knowing that the person who made the video would read it. But as the video becomes more popular and has more subscribers, then people will start to say the guy or the video maker, assuming that the guy won't read it. And people are always surprised when I do read it and I actually respond. And I know that people make rash judgments, so I don't come back and say, oh, fuck you, asshole. I'm like, hey, you know, it's easy to judge, but look at this factor and this factor, and then we end up being friends and they end up being a subscriber. That's what I'm after. It's not just pulling people in that want to hear what I have to say, but rather the people who want to argue against me for who I am, maybe being able to change a couple minds. Everybody's hated by somebody. That's not my interest, not my worry. It's more of really getting to the bottom of why we act the way we do towards others, especially when we can be more anonymous. So a video where, you know, there's a lot more people commenting, it's easier for somebody to sneak in a snide comment in more of a hateful kind of way. But it's not that the person's hateful. Perhaps they're just having a bad day. Perhaps they're just angry about something else. Perhaps they were frustrated by their kids and they're just lashing out online instead of... there's a South Park episode, actually, where Kyle's dad, they find out that he's this troll that's been trolling the school and all the parents and calling them all those vicious names. And they're a Jewish family, so he's got his little yarmulke on and stuff, and he goes into his office at night, closes the door, grabs a cup of wine, and he sits down and his keyboard and starts typing, "Fuck you, you goddamn bitch," and just totally harshing on people. And it was a look into kind of this behavior which can come out of anyone. Even the most mild-mannered person can turn into a troll or a hostile person when they feel like they're not listened to. And I think that this is where trolls come from. I think that they are people who aren't comfortable with who they are and aren't comfortable with their lives. And I'm not saying that to troll any trolls, because I've even talked to some of my subscribers who have admitted to me that they're trolls and tried to defend why trolls exist. And of course that's not what I'm talking about here, just trolls. I'm talking about the average person who may just lash out at the wrong time, at the wrong person, not meaning ill. And how many people will jump down their throat? I'm more likely to just blow it off and say, look, you know, we're just people. And I've learned that, because I'm a stubborn son of a bitch. If you piss me off, I'm going to tell you how I feel. There's no way around it. I always do. And everybody who knows me, all my friends and family, they know that I tell it like it is, always. And I don't hold back. But I also have a little bit of tact in the way I do it. You know, I try not to tear into people's personal things, and that's where what it comes down to. If somebody's acting out of line, you know, put them in their place. But if they're just acting in a way that maybe you don't understand, or just maybe damaging themselves in your eyes, give them a little bit of breathing room. You know, even with people with addictions or with personality issues that are working on these things. You know, because we really are all in this together, whether we like it or not. We can be as stubborn as we want, but human nature says that we're social creatures and that we want to bounce our ideas off of other people. So when somebody bounces their ideas off of others and feels like they're not listened to, or they're ridiculed, or they are outcast, they will find a group that agrees with them and they will stick with that group. This is how a lot of the fringe extreme conspiracy groups form. People who can find nobody else that they can relate to except for these people, and people who will listen to them and say right on. And that should teach us all something, that we all want to feel comfortable. And groupthink, it's necessary. It's also always going to be there. I don't think we're ever going to be able to escape it, because the group knows more than the individual, regardless. It doesn't matter who you are. The group always knows more than the individual. But there are some very smart motherfuckers out there who do have better ideas than the group, and they're rarely listened to. But being a human means being able to let things go when people decide to harsh you, but also to ask them why and to discuss it with people. It takes a big person to be able to kind of turn the other cheek in a way. And sometimes that's a virtue, and sometimes it's a vice. Because if you become too passive, people will tread all over you and treat you like shit. You're going to have to stand up for yourself all the time. But if you tell it like it is, but you're cool with people and honest with people, I mean, like I said in a video the other day, the best feeling is being in a group where you can laugh together and truly feel comfortable. And that's pretty rare in this world. So I think that a lot of this comes down to this PC culture and this kind of freedom of speech censorship that's been going on slowly in the last 5 years, or quickly in the last 5 years rather, and it's kind of crept up to where people are afraid that they can't even, I don't know, they can't tell people how they feel. They have to tread lightly and be careful of the words they use, and I think that that's kind of just a growing phase for society. But it's also left a lot of people frustrated, not being able to express themselves and how they truly feel, because society may look down on it. Or, when I was a kid, we could say words like retarded or tranny, or even beaner. I grew up with all these Mexicans in Hillsboro, where I lived, and a lot of people called it Hills Burrito. I found that out later, but all my neighbors in the whole neighborhood were Mexican. But I was a kid, and they picked on me, they beat me up sometimes, and they were kind of jerks. But as a kid, you don't think much of it. You sure as hell don't think, oh, they're Mexicans. But it's using these terms, these derogatory terms, were never really meant to say, I hate this person. It was just a definition. In fact, I hate to bring it up a third time, but South Park, if you've never seen South Park, because I keep bringing this up, but episodes pop into my head. The one I watched last night is one of my favorite episodes. It was where all these Harley riders come into town, and one of the kids yells fags at the bikers. And the bikers say, well, whatever, it's just one kid. By the end, people are saying, fags, get out of town. They spray painted it. They're yelling fags at the bikers. And the kids get in trouble, of course. They're like, how could you be so hateful towards homosexuals? And the kids are like, what are you talking about? They're like, no, fags ride motorcycles. And in the end, they ended up redefining the word fag to be Harley riders. Now, I'm not dissing Harley riders, and I'm sure as hell not trying to be derogatory here. But they made so many points to try to say, hey, well, a fag. They looked up, the Harley riders went to the library and looked up fag to say, well, what does it mean? Oh, well, it used to mean a bundle of sticks. And a guy who sold firewood, it was a fag of firewood. And then they're like, oh, but then it was meant as an old woman. And of course, we know in England it's meant, a cigarette. Definitions change over time. The power of a word is only the strength we give it. So, I know that it seems kind of off track from the rest of the video, but really I think that this is a key issue. Being able to, I don't know, giving words too much power is what makes people perceive things as hateful or hurtful, when in fact it's maybe not as bad as we think it is. But I don't know, those are just thoughts to ponder. I just wanted to kind of just discuss this main issue of being careful about what we say to people. There's sometimes when I come across a video that's so preposterous and ridiculous, maybe it's a flat earth thing or something, and somebody makes some stupid claim, and I leave kind of a comment that's just obviously cynical, and I'll think about it and I'll think, oh, it was kind of harsh, and maybe I'll change it. The first thing you think isn't necessarily what you need to say, but sometimes I leave it. It just depends. We all have our moments, and I guess we have to be we have to thumb our noses up at certain things. It's just the way it is. So, the only note I took for this video was humans are too serious, and that's really what this video was going to be about. But instead, I just kind of rambled about the other stuff, which ends up pretty much segueing into this idea that we are all too serious about stuff. We're too serious about how others should be. We're too serious about what others should believe or be doing or what they should be thinking. But we're far too serious about what we should be doing. Everything we eat is going to kill us. Everything we do is dangerous. Everything's going to give you cancer. And you're getting wireless signals through your body, and you're getting radiated, and you're going to die, you're going to die, you're going to die. And it's just like, fuck. You just got to let it all go at a point and just say, fuck it, live your life, Just, I think when we all kind of let go, I don't know. I'll leave it at that. Thanks for coming to Carpo's channel, yo.